So, welcome back. As you can see, I have not shaved for this episode because I think look a little bit more like an old salty sailor with a grey beard might put some more power into my statements. That was a joke. Anyway, the thing is, this video is not about what's the best boat for you. It's about how I end up sailing be free. But I'm definitely gonna kill some myths, so stay tuned. So in this video I'm not gonna tell you what kind of boat you should buy. I'm not even gonna tell you what kind of boat you should not buy. I just want to invite you to follow my journey in how I end up sailing my boat. And obviously I cannot put like 2 years of research into this tiny little episode, and I'm not gonna invite you on board all the boats I was visiting and do sailing with. But I've been sailing quite a lot of different boats, not only from I was just a young kid, but also during my journey trying to find out what kind of boat should I buy. Obviously you should start with a budget, and that was the most important thing to me. So I had this kind of money and I decided to take away half of it, and that's what I put for my boat. And the other half I put on the bank account because I know that running costs on a yacht is ridiculous. And if you think this is a video about monohulls versus catamarans, it's not. Okay, so here is the thing. You can circumnavigate the world with almost anything. It all depends on your preferences in comfort and luxury. Of course, safety is the thing, but I'm gonna talk about that later. But in principle, you can do it in almost anything. I mean, it's about if you are only going from east to west, following the trade winds, you can do it in almost anything.
Heyerdahl proved this theory on a custom yacht for that age, the Balsa Raft Kon-Tiki. So, to be a bit funny, you could say this is a blue water yacht, as it's custom built. But don't worry, I'm gonna explain more later. Even though Heyerdahl is my hero, I still believe this custom yacht is safer, and for sure sails better than the Kon-Tiki. As I know firsthand, the Kon-Tiki only can sail downwind. And of course this is the most popular jokes about catamarans, and some even compare them to Heyerdahl's Balsa Raft Kon-Tiki. Mostly because of the myths of only being capable of sailing downwind. I already knew this was a myth, so I spent my time looking for other things. I'm gonna explain more later, but first keep this in mind. If you're only gonna follow the trade winds into the sunset, you can do it in almost anything. And today you can fly across the oceans on foils, on a trimaran, a catamaran or a monohull. Traditionally, you could say a mono sits in the water and a multihull on top of the water. It's not entirely true. I'm gonna tell you more about hull speed and how to calculate this later. I'm a big fan of trimarans. However, I did not spend much time on this category. Basically because of price and also the size you would need as a liveaboard. Often exotic materials like carbon fiber, and you need some size to get the liveaboard qualities I want.
Say hi to Thomas.
Hi, Thomas!
So, after watching lots of YouTube videos, I was instead chasing catamarans because everyone say that's the thing to buy nowadays. And back home in Norway, it's almost no catamarans, and you are more likely to see a Viking ship than a multi-hull sailboat. And just like you watching this video now, I was also searching for info. Lots of YouTube videos said this was just awesome, and honestly it looks pretty cool, not to mention the crazy amount of space a catamaran can offer. So I booked appointments all over Europe, and luckily this was some years ago, and flying around was not only dirt cheap, but very efficient. As you already know the obvious, I'm sailing a monohull now, so later out in this video I'm gonna explain why. It's not because I don't want a catamaran. But first you need to know a catamaran is not just a catamaran, just like a monohull is not just a monohull. And a production yacht is not just a production yacht. And I'm not even gonna talk about the topic of metal boat versus plastic boats. It's pro and cons with everything and could be a future topic. I give you all this information before diving down into details to give you the right perspective. Just because some catamarans like this sails fast, you cannot generalize and think just because it's a cat it will sail fast, not even downwind. Just as monohull have different performance and quality, the same goes for catamarans. And I'm gonna explain very short the biggest difference. It's time to dive down into some details, so let's focus on the cat on my drawings here. As I said, a cat is not just a cat. Very briefly, you can say performance costs more, and the higher performance the lower comfort. The same goes for monohulls and trimarans. So my unqualified guess is the main reason for why the mass volume is spacious and comfortable production cats and not performance yet. Most likely because people like me look at reasonable priced spacious former charter yachts in Europe. As I could not afford a performance cat or a trimaran, I started to look at spacious catamarans. And let's be honest, it's really appealing with big windows, sliding doors and not the feeling of living in a basement. But what happens if you start diving down into physics and sailing theories? Very briefly, I said a monohull sits in the water and a multihull on top of the water. Lots of modern and very spacious catamarans often have a pretty wide body for being a catamaran. Not only for the space and comfort inside, but to carry more load. So a wider body with some even a draft down to 120 cm with added weight will no longer sit on top of the water. And this of course will affect performance even more. And in best case, you are now looking at displacement speed. So I think this is really important to know. So my experience unfortunately was not what I hoped for. They all sailed pretty decent, except in close reach. But remember one of my statements. If you're only gonna follow the trade winds into the sunset, you can do it in almost anything. So you can definitely do it on business class with big windows and sliding doors. It's your choice. It's all about your preferences and how and where you want to go, but let's dig a bit deeper. A high performance catamaran sails not only fast but point well also. Normally have dagger boards and narrow hull and are of course very weight sensitive. While a wide body heavy catamaran will struggle because a close reach performance are sacrificed, and that's okay, but you should know about it. Then add some waves and currents to this equation. This is approximately how it would look like. Just to be clear, I could put in some monohulls in this picture as well. Everyone understands tacking back and forth getting nowhere is no fun. That's why you often see this category cats running engine, which is totally okay. I could not afford those I would have, so they're out of my picture. Realizing the ones I could afford did not manage close reach very well, I kind of gave up catamarans as I don't want a too old yacht. I'm not claiming this is the blueprint, and this theory is only based on my own experience. So when in Grenada racing other catamarans, it was fun to see theory in real side by side of other catamarans.
Why is this ahead of us?
He won't be for after 2 minutes.
And Colin was absolutely right. His catamaran is closer to a performance cat, yet surprisingly comfortable, and of course we easily won this race. As you can see, these have a very low profile and narrow hulls, and definitely my kind of catamaran. And as I now starting to compare catamarans to monohulls, I needed to start looking at modern hull designs. Before moving into the world of monohull, I'm gonna kill another myth. Catamarans do roll, and sometimes even more uncomfortable than monohull. So after quite a lot of test sails, sadly I found out I had to start from scratch and rethink my idea of my next yacht. And back home in freezing cold Norway, starting to browse yacht world again. We all have our backgrounds and history coloring our choices. So when I started my reflections on catamarans, I started with Kon-Tiki. So as the clown I am, I have to start with a Viking ship, as just as a silly example. More and more monohulls comes with twin rudder configuration, and it's for a reason I'm gonna explain more later out here. The old Viking ships was fast for several reasons, but they were also designed for rowing. In the 70s and the 80s, round shape hulls and long keel was the big thing. However, with more education, technology and science, the hull design look very different today. Displacement speed is valid, but flat bottom wide body can break this old rule when getting out of the water and start surfing. Before telling you why I bought a 55, I just want to point out a fun fact. The rudder on Viking ships was in the Norse language called styrebord and was always placed on starboard side.
And some people even tell you that it's only a long keel boat with a skeghang rudder and two masts, and this old-fashioned 70s style is the only thing you can cross any ocean and circumnavigate the world with. I mean, I don't want to say that's false. It's maybe plausible or not.
At least today you have a very good weather routing systems and predictions. You don't need to sit and wait for heavy weather and fight it. Of course you can be surprised, but with a seaworthy yacht you will most likely give up before your yacht.
Wait me if it's more than 40, right?
Yeah, we are just more than 40.
40. Okay. 45 then.
Okay.
I rather focus on the ability to outrun really bad weather, and this separates my thinking to old school thinking, without claiming one is better than the other. However, I knew that 90% of my time on board I will be either in a marina or on a beautiful destination on anchor. But I have also been out sailing before, and I know that you can get some unpleasant weather. And in this context I do understand the use of blue water yacht as an expression, which I'm gonna talk more about later. I'm totally agree in some of these statements, and I also agree in heavier yacht is good, and that's why my personal opinion was bigger is better. To me, an upper fixer project was out of question, as I have been there, done that. My experience is a project boat is not gonna only cost you much more money, but it's also gonna take all your time, and all I wanna do was to go sailing. Without bothering you with too many details, my requirements, except from the obvious, and all ocean going yacht. I also wanted a modern hull design capable of 10 knots and above. I'm gonna show you the formula based on 15.5 meter water length to theoretically give you 10 knots in displacement speed. To have your answer in knots instead of meters per second, you probably already know that 1 knot equals 1852 meters per hour. So by replacing 1.31 with 2.55 in this formula, you will have your answer directly out in knots. I'm just showing you this direction so you easily can calculate the hull speed of your boat, or the one you are looking at. In my case it's 2.55 times 3.94 that gives me a hull speed of 10 knots. I already knew this, but here you go. I needed a waterline at 15.5 meters, and this means normally a 16 to 17 meter long yacht. But of course length is not everything. A modern hydrodynamic design is also something to think about. And again, my simple illustration just point out the differences of old school and modern design. And now you might think you need a 55 to circumnavigate the world. You don't need that, but it's all about your preference and desire in comfort.
So, from where have you been sailing with this boat?
I sailing from France in Brittany, France.
Oh, that's a rough coast. And you actually crossed the Atlantic with this?
I crossed the Atlantic and I tried to cross the canal to Panama,
Okay.
to the Pacific.
Wow. And what's your next stop?
My next stop is Marquez Island, French Polynesia.
Oh, cool. So we're gonna see again.
It's a very long step
Yeah.
from.
So what kind of speed do you get when you're sailing?
Speak 4-5 knot by 4-5 knot.
Wow.
100 knot, 100 mile by days.
Wow, that's not bad.
No, it's good.
It's really good.
I don't know why he has a chicken in front of his boat, because this cool guy have bigger balls than me. But let's jump back to my bullet list and why I wanted big modern hull design with twin rudders. If you look carefully at this 10-year-old video, you will see me broaching when a wind gust comes. That's a problem with smaller and lighter boats, but mostly because of combination of the obvious, being overpowered and with only one rudder in the center. But I could see it coming and was prepared. However, this video from Be Free in bigger seas and stronger wind also shows you very well what I try to explain. Look how relaxed I am, because even sailing in stronger wind, Be Free don't do any funny things, because of several things. But I'm gonna break it down to only two important statements. Bigger is better, twin rudder is safer. You don't need to agree with me, I'm just exemplifying what I held as important when I was chasing my next boat. I just want to point out the biggest difference between old school and modern design, and if you're new to sailing, can catch up and understand what I'm talking about when saying twin rudders. You will have a much better stability with a modern hull design and always one rudder with a good angle into the water. However, it's in downwind sailing, in heavy seas or when surfing you really see the biggest difference. My illustration might be a bit strong here to show you, but my desire for twin rudder is because it behaves as stable as a catamaran. So with not only very high comfort, I even sail almost twice as fast as the old example, with no stress at all. Since I most of my life have had enough of this shit, I don't need a metal yacht, and instead we're looking for other qualities. I prefer to sail in shorts and go for a swim. And most modern yachts have easy access to the water. But as in many things in life, there will sometimes be some compromises. I did not get an easy access to the water as I wanted, but for sure a gigantic swimming platform. Reason for my compromise was I also wanted a dinghy garage and closed transom. I'm gonna explain you my arguments for this.
In Caribbean, it's lock it or lose it.
I'm not gonna walk you through all my bullets on my list, but this was among the top priority, except from the obvious, a budget. Being mostly alone on my yacht, I wanted it as difficult as possible to enter for criminals. That's the main reason for closed transom in my case. This is just a few of the things I had on my list, leaving me with only 3 different brands on the market, and as you can see, some compromises as well. This is just an example from a 25-year-old smaller yacht I sailed 10 years ago. However, even this had the same important qualities I was looking for as a solo sailor, and that's the ability to operate absolutely everything from the cockpit. Normally, on a modern yacht, you will get a spacious cockpit. That's perfect for not only having guests on board, but when on anchorage. You are just closer to the water. But for me, as a solo sailor, it's also much easier to have the overview of things, and also in docking situations. As you can see here, it would be more complicated if I had a center cockpit yacht.
Port side ties, turn in. Over.
That captain, I'll be here with Eddie waiting for you.
Don't expect you will get a DJ and this kind of welcome just because you sail a monohull. It's only a Viking thing.
Are you crazy?
This is not about Vikings, and it's about myths. And one of the myths is horns. Vikings actually didn't use horns, so that's pretty funny. So that leads me to take you with me into the journey about some more myths, and that's about production boats and blue water boats.
I definitely understand the expression production yacht and of course custom built, as my first boat definitely was custom built. I also understand the intention of calling a yacht a blue water yacht as an expression. However, when it's used in a negative direction, generalizing and stating a production yacht is not a blue water yacht, that's when you lose me. And if I should listen to all the experts out there, I would most likely not be out sailing now. Not everyone can afford a custom-built yacht, and not everyone wants to sail an old-fashioned yacht either. So what is the definition of a production yacht? Is there a number of yachts per year? And why do some believe because one brand sells hundreds of one model and not 5, it's suddenly not a blue water yacht? So if a reproduced boat, no matter of number, is no longer a blue water yacht, then the 99% of the yachts on the market are not blue water yachts. If you believe in these statements, you can only buy a custom built yacht, meaning this one is a blue water yacht per definition. My point is the perfect boat don't exist, but I agree some are stronger than others, and knowing the limits of not only yourself but also your yacht is key. Remember, new boats has their things, but so do old. And after originally wanting a multi-hull, I obviously wanted a spacious and comfortable yacht as well, even though my focus also is on performance.
Cheers.
And if you have not fallen asleep yet, I can tell you why I did not buy a former charter yacht. And it's lots of statements and myths around this category as well. I later only looked at private use, the owner's version, not only because of the wear and tear, but I also discovered some of the bigger charter boat companies are so big they get some custom adjustments. Not always to the better for a long distance sailor. I do believe you can be lucky, but be careful. Also remember, even though some charter companies are really first class in maintenance, end of the day, not everyone is like you and me.
So even this video is a crazy long episode. I didn't even touch the topic about sail plan, rigging, engine, shaft, no shaft, sail drive, etc. So that will be later topics, and maybe even sail trim. One of the favorite things I like with the rigging on my boat is backstay tensioner and stuff like that. So that might come later.
Remember, this is my opinions used for my own case. I don't have any blueprint, and it's just as many opinions as there is different yachts out there.
So if you watched this episode all the way to here, I just want to say you're a hero, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a really boring topic, but I tried to spice it up with some humor. If you haven't already, I would be very happy if you consider subscribing to my channel and give me a thumbs up. Then it's just to say, stay healthy, stay safe, all the best. See you later.